the Vin Room. Phoebe from the Vin Room is going to be joining me pretty soon. I'm really excited to have her come on board. We're going to talk about what's happening in the restaurant industry, and we're going to find out what's really going on with more and more of the issues of businesses being shut down. What are the innovative ideas? I really want to look forward to having Phoebe from the Vin Room come join me. So she'll be doing that shortly. But while you're on here, while we're getting all these things figured out and tested, so we're ready to go, I would love for you to send me your questions. Send me what queries you may have, things that you want to do, or your questions about the industry, and then we can kind of go from there. So feel free to send in all your questions. I've got this feed right in front of me, so I'll be able to read your questions while we're having a conversation. And there she is. Phoebe, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing very well. I'm really excited about this session. So thank you so much for taking some time out and joining me today.
It's my pleasure. I have no place to go.
Yeah, I guess not, eh? So we're going to give it a couple of minutes, let some more people join in. We're going to start in about 2 minutes or so. What I really wanted to talk about, and we'll get into more details in just a minute, but about the industry, the businesses of being a restaurant owner. Also, with all that's going on, COVID and everything that's happening, I would love to get your perspective of what you've done differently, what should business owners in general be doing and stuff like that. So I think there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation. So I want to kind of give you a bit of a preamble on what we'll be talking about. And again, this is total open dialogue. There's no script or anything like that. So feel free to talk about what's on your mind and so forth.
No problem at all. I don't have all the answers, but I can definitely share what I'm doing.
What location are you in right now? I can see something behind you right now. So.
I'm at my wine store, actually.
Okay.
So right beside Vin Room West.
Okay, so Vin Room West, for location purposes, is located where?
In the neighborhood of West Springs.
Fantastic. And then you have a couple of other locations, yes?
Yes, I do. I have one at the airport, which is closed.
Okay.
And I have one downtown on 4th Street in the Mission District.
And so just before we get kicked off on this, from the one in Mission versus out west, is there a big difference in sales, a big difference in what's happening in those areas and so forth?
I think, well, a little bit. Definitely seeing more takeout and delivery up in the burbs.
Okay.
That might be a function of how many of us are open up here.
Yeah.
But certainly are seeing, I'll say very good support from the community.
Fantastic.
I'm pretty happy about the fact that I'm able to keep most of my managers employed and keeping them busy, right?
That's great. And that's something we're not hearing is about businesses being able to keep staff on board. So I'm happy to hear that that's working out for you. How are sales through the wine store itself?
The wine store, we've actually just moved everything to the restaurant. So, people do want their alcohol, believe it or not. And we guarantee delivery within the hour. So it helps. Our staff actually do the deliveries.
Fantastic. Just to give me a bit of an idea before we kick off in about 1 minute, give me a couple of ideas of a couple of bottles of wine I should be grabbing from your location.
Always bubbles.
Always bubbles. Okay.
Always bubbles. You got to celebrate life, right?
I think you're right.
You have to. We're all going to get through this. I know we've all said that, but at the end of the day, we will. We are lucky to be in a first world country.
Yes. Perspective, right? It's all about perspective and what's happening out there. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Let's kick it off. I've got Phoebe from the Vin Room here live on IG. We're calling it Real Talk live happening here. Phoebe was nice enough to accept our invitation to come on board because I think people don't understand what the big changes have happened in the restaurant business. Many restaurants are shut down completely in this city and across this country. But there are ones who are staying open, doing different things, and they're also being very innovative. So Phoebe, first of all, let's give our viewers a bit of an idea of your 2 locations that are open right now, and what do you specialize in?
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks for letting me join you. This is my first Instagram video, so I'm pretty excited about it.
This is great.
I have 3 locations in Calgary. One is in the international airport, so we are closed there due to the no traffic and no flying. So we've got 2 locations remaining open, one in the Mission District, Vin Room Mission, and Vinroom West in the neighborhood of West Springs. And I've got my tiny little boutique wine store right next to it.
Fantastic. Tell me about the impact that this is happening.
Oh, well, gosh, we're into week 6 of the shutdown now. And I'll say that I'm going to talk about the good stuff first, because I think we always hear about doom and gloom. The good stuff for me is that it's been 6 weeks and I've been able to keep most of my managers employed. I think they're getting sick and tired of me though, but you know how it is. But we've pivoted and learned to adapt, and we're doing takeout and delivery from our 2 locations.
And so when you look at revenue changes pre-COVID and during COVID, what's been the impact to you guys?
Well, it's pretty significant. I mean, you can imagine you're taking your whole business and virtually taken down to bare bones.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 60 to 80% drops. I think that's not uncommon in from what I've heard anyway. But and I think that at the end of the day, you have to realize that this is it's a short-term thing. In 48 hours, I converted my dine-in business to a takeout and delivery and catering. You know, we're even doing little grocery collections. So who would have thought that?
Wow.
6 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay, so there's a bit of a change happening. Not only are you seeing business drop, but you've changed your business and what you're offering. So kind of walk into how you got to that point. There's a lot of people that are business owners on this right now going, I might have to change with the times currently, and then what the new normal will look like. Walk me through some of the changes you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Well, number one thing we've done is when we had to shut down, we shut down. Yeah. We didn't close the restaurants. We just converted what we had into an offering. We're known for date night out. So we said, well, let's bring it home to people's homes. We'll call it date night in. And I'm not a marketer by any means. I'm a business geek. But you know, I looked at what do I want if I'm stuck at home? And it's really a little bit of what I had, a little bit of normalcy. So we just created things that are what people want to do. We're all sick and tired of cooking. I never did like to cook, so but I certainly enjoy a little night out. Yeah. So we just created little date nights that you can bring home. We use our staff to deliver. So, you know, you've got professional chefs in the kitchen. We got my managers who deliver it, and just created a little something for you. And more importantly, I've really grown closer to our suppliers.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of them are local because they are local providers that I want them to be there when this is over. And so we've actually created little packages based on their products because their avenues of supplying to restaurants have, you know, decreased. So great companies like Lambtastic Farms who've been around for years, who've been supplying to restaurants, now we're carrying their lamb products. You want to cook at home? We'll get it to you. So we just we've got a Tag Bake Studio that's creating cinnamon buns for us. So for your rise and shine, you know, things like that. And behind us is really dozens of local suppliers that have been with us and collaborating with us. And we're just trying to bring that back out to the community.
So if for those business owners watching this, they can learn something from you. First of all, you said you had to change with the times. Number two, you had to remember what your customers and what you wanted and what got you in this as a special brand in the business was date night. And then number three is stick very close to your suppliers, because as you have business relationship with other businesses, or what we call B2B, that's important as well. So I really like the fact that you mentioned that. I want to tell you a bit of a story that happened to me this week, and I never told you about this. In fact, I called you this weekend to get more information. So here's the story. I first went on a food delivery app to get Vinroom because I live out west, and I like the fact that I can go to the Vinroom. And in fact, I go on my date night there. So it was really great. And so we went on the app and we were looking for something to have. And I called in and basically said, well, I'd like something different than what was on the menu. I wanted to add on potatoes because I'm a Calgary boy. You got to have your meat and potatoes, right? And you came back and said, well, you know, we can't do that with the app, but I've got this date night offering. And I'm like, what's the date night offering? And in fact, you kind of walk through what was the offering. And if you don't mind, can I give prices and so forth? You're comfortable with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we basically got on was 2 entrees, a dessert, and a bottle of wine, $60, plus tip and so forth. And your staff delivered it to our door within the hour. So I want to show you that I was there.
I grabbed it. It was fantastic. It was neat because, like you said, we actually got to have a date night over the weekend. I was able to put the bottle of wine in a couple of glasses, put the food in the oven, turn it on, warm it up, and we actually had a great meal. And it was a different experience. Now, what was interesting is I didn't know anything about that until I went on your website. And so I think there's an opportunity for you and other business owners to know that you're doing something unique. You're offering something out there. There's an opportunity for you to get the voice out in multiple channels. And that's why I wanted to bring out IG Live to say, hey, everyone out there, there's date night. And I'll give you a bit of an idea of what she's doing. This is great. Breakfast in bed, work from home survival pack, and then also date night in. These are different offerings, working with some suppliers that she's very close to and able to get them out there and get that product and service to you, which is different than what I've been accustomed to during COVID, is just go on an app that does a food delivery service and whatever's available. So what made you bring up this idea? And it's not just date night in, but it's those other ones like breakfast in bed and so forth. What made you bring that kind of concept out?
I think the most important thing is not about pivoting. It is important to pivot, but it's really about thinking about what you want. And these are all things I wanted.
Okay.
So that's number one. But the other is just listening to your guests. We get numerous phone calls, and it's just been a little overwhelming with people calling us or emailing us saying, hey, we support you, and we know we want you to be around. So I think the number one thing is keep the mindset that we're all going to bleed. Whether you bleed a little or you bleed a lot, we're all going to bleed. So for me, in my own personal life, I want to make sure that if I'm going to bleed, I want to bleed with people who are part of this community. And that's the thing. So come up with ideas, and I would say don't be afraid to try.
So when your customers were calling you in, and what were some of the things that they were saying to you? Because you got a lot of phone calls. I was one of them. You know, what kind of feedback or conversations have you had with your customers during this whole COVID crisis?
Yeah, a lot of it is missing their, missing coming out and hanging out with friends, missing going out on dates, as you know. And so a lot of it is how can we help? And it was a little overwhelming. I tell you, in 48 hours, I learned how to build a website, and I'm actually known in our company as Dispatch because that's all I do. They don't think I can drive very well. I don't know. But they're just saying, we want you to be part of this community. So at the end of the day, we came up with something. It's, we're sensitive to people's budgets right now. So it's value driven for us. We much rather have something we're really proud of that you can enjoy at home. And hopefully you'll enjoy it and tell other people about it. But I think I want to point out one very important thing. And the important thing is you don't have to support us, just support local. Because behind every local business there are dozens of other local businesses. So that's what I would say, is look for your local businesses and also phone them directly or email them directly. When we use apps, and I'm guilty of it before COVID-19, but apps take 20 to 30% of the restaurant's revenue. So It's a huge chunk. So pick up the phone. If you're at home and you have time, pick up the phone and order from them directly.
Phoebe, you got to tell people this stuff. Like, I had no idea it was 20 to 30%. I actually had the conversation with my date, and I was telling her, this is, they're probably taking a 5 or 10% haircut by using the app. And that's why they offered this. And it's not online. Like, there's no date night on those apps because there's a difference in and I thought profit margin was higher on your date night versus what's available on the app. I had no idea it was 20 to 30%. Like, we need to share this information with the people because I don't think they realize that there's that much of a cut that your apps are taking from the restaurant. I had no idea.
Yep. And it's true. And I much rather we take the time to phone and email them.
And so that's one opportunity that you've seen. What have you learned in this process? One, you built your own website. Congratulations on doing that, because many business owners will not try something new in the middle of COVID. So you did the website. What else have you done that's different than what you've done before?
I think it's really important, and I'm very lucky, is to utilize your relationship capital and your network, because you can help each other out. So partnerships, besides my date night in, my second top selling item is my fur baby fairs. They're complimentary,
Yeah.
but it's a 3-course for your dog. But it's about creating partnerships that I've had in the past, where you've got other local companies who have products for their pets, and we send it home to you. So I think, I would say reach out to your existing partnerships and see what you guys can do together. Cross promote on each other's websites. It doesn't take much to help each other out. And hopefully you can get some benefit and renewed relationships out of it.
So I was talking to Arif from Movement. We both work with him to some degree. And I was telling him about collaboration. I think it's important right now that businesses collaborate. And I use the concept here of 4 corners and 4 walls. So you've got 4 corners of the property where Vinroom is located. There are things that people do when they drive into your location in the good old days. I'm going to call it the good old days. And then there were things that they were doing the minute they came into your location and then left your location. If we kind of go over those 4 corners, we can figure out what they were doing. And one thing that you mentioned was right across the street on the west side location you have is a spa for dogs. One thing you're known for is having the patio open where the dog can chill while we're having a meal. Like, these are the things that you've been known for in the west side of Calgary. And you've taken that and harnessed, and you've worked with other businesses to collaborate. I think collaboration is a very important piece right now. Now, you've done collaboration, you've learned some new technology and so forth. What's the next step for Phoebe? What's on Phoebe's list of things to learn while we go through this COVID? Because it could be another month, maybe 2, before restaurants can get back to somewhat open. Let's forget about normal, but just open. It could be that long. So what's next on Phoebe's docket to learn?
Well, answer the phones and listen to your customers. I'll tell you that. It's a lot of the ideas are from people who really have ideas of things that they're in pain about. So we're going to launch this week little grocery packages for people who are, I'll call it, at home alone.
Yeah.
The single folks, the single professionals, we call them, who don't want to line up to get into a grocery store for basics such as eggs and milk and, essential produce. Well, you know what? We order it anyway through the restaurant. Why not put it into little packages and let people have it? Let's get it to their homes.
And I think
let them pick it up.
That's the message we need to send out, is that it's you're looking at your customer. You've realized that these individuals come for a single date at the Vinroom, not series of dates. And so they come for a single date to meet hopefully that special person. So they're single, and then they go back home into their single life. And now you're realizing that, hey, maybe we need to make sure that we connect with them, because they're still going to come back for their next date when they go on one, or they're going to bring friends and so forth. Are you worried about the cost of doing this stuff? Because there's many business owners who tell me, I could do a mini grocery package and so forth, but it's going to cost me more than I got to pay for delivery, and it's just a waste of time, Faisal. Why should I be doing that? What are your thoughts when you hear comments like that?
I think my university professors would really be upset if I said this, but I just throw my balance sheet out the window. At the end of the day, I'm looking at it a long-term gain. I've survived the flood. Many of these managers who are with me have been with me on the flood during the flood days. And at the end of the day, we're just going to keep trying. If I look at dollars and cents, yes, that's important. Don't get me wrong. But I think there's something to be said about, hey, how can you actually be part of the community and continue to be part of the community? And my managers and my guests are my community. I'm here quite often. I see them, and I actually miss seeing them. Yeah. So that's the thing I would say is it's got to make a little bit of financial sense, but don't judge it just on that.
What great advice that is. You're throwing out the balance sheet it makes sense sometimes. Like, we can't always focus on the money. We have to focus on the overall good. And when you say it's a long-term game and so forth, let's kind of divert from that and kind of go through this long-term game. What are your thoughts? Maybe you're talking to other restaurant owners Maybe you're talking to other business owners. What are your guys' thoughts of when we're going to get to the other side of this? How long are we planning for out there?
I think we just lost the volume here. Just hang on.
How does that sound now, Phoebe? Can you hear me now? You lost volume. Yeah, I can see that. Okay. So what we'll need to do is we're probably going to shut down and start again. Okay. I will turn off the live and come right back on so we can try this again. Oh, hang on. I've been told, no, don't do that. We got to fix the volume. So maybe some of my tech guys who are online can kind of walk us through how we can get this volume back if anybody else is listening, because I think Phoebe lost volume, but not the rest of you.
Hi there.
There we go.
There we go.
All
Seems like we lost volume for a second there.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm glad that you're back on the volume side. Let's talk about what is your viewpoint or thoughts about when we're going to get back to somewhat normal. You're talking to your suppliers, you're talking to business owners, other restaurant owners. What are your guys' sentiment about that?
Boy, that's a tough question if I knew. Smarter brains than me don't know the answer to that. But I would say that we have to get used to the fact that there is a new normal. You know, I don't think we'll ever get back to what it was before, at least in the short term, until there really is a vaccine in place. So I think the thing for us is really to understand that we're going to have to go along for the road and along for the ride and go from there.
You know, I've been hearing from many people about the word marketing. We should get more marketing out there. We should be selling more stuff right now and getting connected and trying to sell more stuff. I don't like that word right now in this time. I like the word communication. And there's two different types of communication. One that you described about how customers are calling and you're having that one-on-one touch to get better understanding of what their needs are. But let's talk about the different types of communication that's out there. What have you taken on? Website being one of them. And what are areas that you think are opportunity for you?
Well, of course, social media, because as you know, people are on social media a lot. We certainly, I would say, utilize your newsletter list, utilize your LinkedIn accounts, really utilize your friends. Now, the simple request I make of my friends is, if you see something you like of any local business, share it to 10 other friends, because you're helping them more than you know, and ask them to share it, and so on and so on. We all have that power to help each other as a community. But not only that, I think that this is a way of growing closer as a community.
That's a great idea. So let's leverage our network in different ways. It's not just marketing to sell something, it's getting the name out there. And there's online social media that needs to be done. It's amazing how many businesses in this city don't leverage social media. It's amazing. I cannot understand why we're at that point right now, especially during COVID, that we're like zero accounts. Forget about the fact that you might have a little bit of an account and a little bit of a following, but I see zero accounts out there. The second part of this is you already have a newsletter, you already have a distribution list and a customer list, and then your friends on top. And so kind of walk me through that conversation you're having with your friends, because sometimes you kind of worry about telling your friends to, help my business out and so forth. There's a little bit, maybe some are shy and so forth. What's been the approach you've been taking?
Yeah, I'm pretty shy myself, so I get it. So my conversation really is with my friends is really, there's no obligation to buy anything from me. The obligation is that if you like our business and if you support it, send it to 10 people. If you've had an experience with us that was good, send it and share it. And lastly, it doesn't have to be us. Just pick a local business you want to support and share it. And I think that's so important, because if you look around you, how many places are closed right now? And we want them to be back. We want our local hairdresser to be back. We want our local clothing store to be back. And we also want our local grocer to be back. So I think that's so important that you can utilize that. I'll give you an example. We did a partnership with a guest of ours, actually, who owns William Joseph Communications. And he reached out to me. He goes, you know what? I'd love to design your Date Night In logo. And he was the one who designed it for me.
Okay.
And so again, these are people who are helping each other for the sake of helping each other and not necessarily for the bottom line. And I think there's something around paying it forward.
Look at that. That's so businesses helping businesses out, friends helping businesses out, and then the concept of paying it forward, right? So and I've done that in the lineup at a drive-through, or I've been at a coffee shop and I've paid it forward, so I can just see what others can do. When it comes to that, when it comes to paying it forward, do you be strategic in who you pay it forward to? Is it supposed to be self-serving, or are we like a hairdresser in the VIN room, maybe not aligned businesses, but would you pay it forward for a hairdresser or someone that's not within your industry or could not benefit your business?
Absolutely, but you can have different ways of paying it forward. And I think that's the important thing to realize, right? Obviously, it doesn't make sense to collaborate time-wise even with hundreds of people, but at the end of the day, you can also, if you can't do it, you can connect them to somebody in your network that can. And I think that's the important thing. Even if you can't do it, you probably know somebody in your network that can do it.
That's great. That's a great point. What are the biggest challenges you're seeing in your industry over the next, call it 3 months? What are the one or two things that you're knowing what we have as the new normal today? What are going to be some of the biggest challenges you guys are going to have?
Starting from zero. I think what you're going to find is that a lot of the deferral programs that are in place are simply deferrals. At some point, somebody has to pay.
Yeah.
I think that's number one challenge. The number two is that, we've all had staff that are no longer working, and just really to bring them back in a meaningful manner for them and for the business.
Yeah.
And I think thirdly is I don't want people to give up. And if this prolongs, people will give up, because at the end of the day, the bleeding can only go on for so long.
Talk to me about your feeling about this deferral. Like the government has basically said, and recently with rent, before that, business loans, not grants, in the restaurant business. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's usually for most restaurant businesses a month-to-month business. It's not like you have an abundance of cash flow that can last you 6-7 months like some other businesses can. So it's literally, from my understanding, a month-to-month kind of business. How does it work? How does a restaurant survive if they are month-to-month and you're going to have this deferral where you have a whole bunch of payments coming 3-4 months down the road?
Well, I'm from oil and gas, so like at the end of the day, I'm used to the ups and downs, but restaurateurs don't do it for the money. They do it for the love and for the excitement and for the passion behind it. And you're absolutely right. It is a month to month. If you read the surveys out there, the average restaurant makes 5 to 7 cents of every dollar in good old days. Let's call it the good old days.
Okay.
So you suddenly start taking that away, and you still have rent and you still have other things, fixed costs. And then you have apps that are taking 20 to 30%. Suddenly you know that it's going to be, you're going to pay for it later, even if you don't pay for it today. So the reality is the restaurants are so much a part of our fabric and a part of our community. It's really where we share our precious moments. I mean, I go out to restaurants and that's what I enjoy, is being with family and friends, right? So, at the end of the day, we have to support them. We also have to support the retail stores.
Yeah.
And restaurants will have a tough time without and they're not the only ones, I'll tell you that, but without some meaningful support from the government. And I would say not only restaurants, but all local businesses, from the mom entrepreneur, the mini entrepreneur, to the ones who have 50, 70 people.
Yeah. So with that profit margin in the good old days being 5 to 10 cents, that doesn't leave a lot of room. And do you think a lot of your peers in the industry will be wiped out because of this?
I worry that they will, without some meaningful intervention. And these are people who employ, many behind them, and who support many local businesses behind them. So that would be my worry.
I have some models on basic businesses around the country, around this city and in this province. My models are showing during the floods that we had in this city, about 10% of businesses never came back. Well, that's a good thing. 90% survival rate is what I call it. My models are a lot different now. I'm seeing maybe 25% being wiped out. A lot of it's going to be where you're going to have those smaller profit margin in businesses. The good old days is 5 to 10%, like you said. Today, with the amount of volume decrease and the changes, it's not going to be like that. So what do restaurant owners do? Like, how do they get ready for this new normal?
Well, I wish I knew the answer to that, but I would say this, at the end of the day, try. You'd be surprised at how you will get support from your guests and from those who still have a paycheck and who have the means to support you. And I think the thing I would say is don't give up. Maybe I'm a little stubborn that way, but don't give up without a fight. And ultimately, you'd be surprised how your guests will come and support you, and your community will come and support you.
That's a true entrepreneurial spirit that you have there, because there are a lot of business owners who were business owner by default, meaning that something happened in their other industry or somewhere in their previous employment, and they became business owners. They didn't have that entrepreneurial spirit. What you're just saying there is don't quit, don't give up. That's the DNA of an entrepreneur. You don't give up. And even if it doesn't work out, you try something different and keep at it. So I really respect business owners who have that entrepreneurial spirit. When you talk to other entrepreneurs, are you seeing some of them give up right now?
I'm not yet. There is I'll call it cautious optimism, but there's also that survival instinct, right? We've been through many things. As you know, we've been through the flood together,
Yep.
Many of us. But at the end of the day, all we have is our attitude. We cannot change anything around us. And I would say optimism, whether it's cautious or not, it's going to keep you going, and it'll help you survive.
How are you balancing between your personal life, spending time with your family, because they're going through whatever they're going through? You're running a business. You're putting a lot of energy and time and change in that. How do you balance the two? Because entrepreneurs are saying, to some degree, now I got to do even more in my business, which means I have less time, but I got to spend time with the family or my loved ones. What's the secret sauce in that one?
Well, my dog is the first to rebel. He doesn't like it that I'm not with him, and he was probably the first one laid off because he's a volunteer house therapy pet, and of course he wasn't allowed to go to hospitals anymore. But I think the really important thing is that you have to look at it is that your business and your employees are your day family. So I definitely am spending more time with them, but there is a little bit of balance, and there is a little bit of, I'll call it the victims of the entrepreneurs. Your spouses, your family, they have to understand that at the end of the day, they're also part of the solution for you, and they're part of the journey.
Yeah, they are part of the journey. Either it's intended or unintended consequences because of what's going on. How many hours a day are you working right now?
Actually, surprisingly, only about 10.
Only about 10. And during the good old days, what was the number of hours you're working then?
It's probably closer to 12 or 14, but don't tell anyone.
Okay. So you're seeing a little bit less in hours. And that's because locations shut down. Like if you had,
Yeah.
that's pretty much for me, it's been the opposite. I was getting to a point in my practice where I was pulling now 10, 12 hours a day, and now it's ramped up to 18 hours a day in some cases, 16, 18-hour days. And that's because we're doing more. We're doing more of stuff like this. We're communicating, working with entrepreneurs, doing a whole bunch of different things. And so when I say how many hours are you working, you probably thought that I was talking about the business itself, but you're also doing other things to connect and work with other business owners and entrepreneurs. If you're to add that in, are you adding more hours now?
Yeah, I guess I would say that, but I don't really consider it work. I guess it's, you're right. You spend more time connecting with other entrepreneurs, but I actually consider that fun.
Okay.
I don't know what I would do if I was stuck at home by myself. I like people, and I would have to have that social interaction, even virtually.
Yeah. And so it's interesting how when you say what's working, what's not working, if it's fun, it doesn't count as work. So I like how you position that. Give me 3 tips. We've got about maybe another minute to go. Give me 3 tips that first in the restaurant business, those entrepreneurs in there, what should they be prepared for going forward, or give me 3 tips that they could action right away?
Great question. Number one, make sure you connect with your network. I think that's number one, because when things loosen up and we are allowed to get back together, I think it's important to be ready. So number one, don't wait to connect with your network. Number 2 is galvanize your customer base. Your guests are there for a reason. They will support you. So connect with them. And I'd say number 3 is probably get your house in order. And what do I mean by that? I mean a couple things. Number 1, financial house, right? So whatever programs are available, make sure you spend the time and go after them.
Yeah.
But secondly, get your internal, what things did you want to change anyway? Start doing it now. Adjust and change it according to what you wanted. This is the perfect time to do it. And I think thirdly is don't give up. You joined years ago or a month ago when you started your business, you did it for a reason. That hasn't changed because of COVID-19. You did it because you were passionate about something. So don't give up and go forward and just try. Don't be afraid of failure. Trust me, if you're not close enough to the edge, you're just not close enough.
Yeah. Phoebe, I was going to ask you, for the restaurant owners and for other business owners, I think your 3 tips cover for every business regardless. I think that's some great advice that you can give everybody that's watching, and we're going to probably replay this shortly and record this and replay it. I want everybody to support local businesses. I want everybody to look at what we've got here as an entrepreneur. We've got a restaurant owner who's done things differently. So I'd love for you to all reach out to your networks and support the Vin Room. 2 locations, 1 in Mission, 1 out west in Calgary. And like she said, go out and support the other local businesses as well. I think it's important at this time. Phoebe, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on Real Talk Live on Instagram. And this is your first Instagram Live. So thank you for trying it out with us.
My pleasure, and stay well.
All right, we've been joined by Phoebe, owner of Vin Room, 2 locations. Go out there. What's the website one more time so people can connect with you?
www.vinroom.com.
Thank you very much. Have yourselves a good day, everybody.
Thank you.